Hi everyone, this is new to me anyway, Sharp QT12 mini boombox. This is definitely a first half of the 80s model. I've seen guesses around 1980 for this, but I haven't seen a definitive date. Unlike Sony, Sharp doesn't have all their old manuals up, so I'll take a little bit more hunting than I was prepared to do. I've tested this radio. I posted a short about it right after I got back, and I've done nothing to it except for a light cleaning. At the moment, the FM and AM radios work fine. The tape deck turns, the motor's obviously working, and fast forward and rewind seem to work, but it seems to be popping out of play. My guess is that one of the belts, I don't know if Sharp is a 1 or 2 belt system. I don't think I've ever been inside one of these before, has gone. I do note that if I look over here, you probably won't be able to see that, just barely by my finger. That's the belt that goes to the tape counter, and that seems to be okay, which is nice because that's under the front and that might be hard to get to. So I wasn't going to get into this today, but I just like this so much I kind of want to make it work. So what I'm going to do is open this up, see if I can quickly change the belt if it's not too complicated. Here's the full model number, QT12CR. I assume R stands for red. C, could that be Canadian? Could be. We've got French and English, we've got the CSA sticker. Made in Japan, so proper one. And I should say the plastics on this, you can't see so much on the back, but the plastics on this compared to say my Sanyo that you might have seen on this channel before, the plastics on this are really very nice. And we have applied metal faceplates front and back, very characteristic of early 80s, but also very characteristic of Sharp stuff. And I mean, it's really, like, it's in lovely shape. There's no yellowing. I haven't pulled the knobs off to wash them properly, but I have cleaned most of the dirt off of this. There is like just a couple of dings and then, some paint rubs from whatever shelf this was stored on for, well, since 1985 or so, perhaps. Sounds good. We just need to get the tape deck going. So let me get a screwdriver and we'll open this up and see if it's obvious how to fix it. Okay, so we're now at the back of the radio. I've acquired a screwdriver right here. I also had this little one because previously I noticed that this antenna wasn't staying in position. And sometimes you can just tighten a little screw at the side if that's what's going on, and that worked perfectly here. So just this little screw there, and you just have to have, this is a Phillips number 0. Very useful little thing, that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws it looks like. Are there any in the battery compartment? Very likely. No, I put the cable. This is probably not the right cable because this is a figure 8 and this looks like it used a square one. I don't know if you can see that. But it does seem to depress the switch inside, which is necessary to get it working. So that's good. So we'll take these screws out. That one came out fairly easily. What I'm hoping is that someone hasn't tried to fix this and damaged the cassette mechanism beyond my ability to repair it. That's always a worry. Very long screw. Can I get this one up? Oh, not quite. Okay, those two are the same length. I just want to keep track of which ones are different. They're all the same length. We don't need to worry about them. I will say the screw heads didn't look like anyone had been on them, but you never know. Okay, so those are all the same. Let's probably have to take, no, maybe not. So I'll take it off anyway, so it comes off easily. Okay, we're going to have to take the knobs off because this is a front comes off design as opposed to back comes off. Sometimes you can wiggle them out, sometimes you need, and you can see that I didn't really clean in here. Sometimes you need a prying tool. That's two. This is good because I will need to clean these properly later. So let's see. Might be hanging up on that screw that's not entirely out. So we're going to have to rotate it off the front. And if we're lucky, yes, this comes around. So we can now see the entire construction. It's two boards. We've got the power supply integrated. I'm going to unplug the speakers here if they come out easily. Oh, it's got a little catch. There we go. All right, so there's the front faceplate. I'll set that over here for the moment and have a look at what we've got. So this is the belt to the tape counter. There's the tape counter reset. There's the cassette mechanism. Here we have our switch gear. We have a not entirely ungenerous ferrite. We've got a proper erase head. We've got a tape head with a little bit of wear on it. Yeah, there's a little bit of, this has seen some use. We have a Sharp branded motor. This appears to be where the power comes into the tape mechanism, and this looks like the tuner coming in here. So this is the tuner section here. It's coming in here, this board, and comes in here. Can we see some of it? Anyway, so this has got to be the amplifier board. Nicely labeled, Sharp. Can we find a date on it? QT12 22. That's QT12 is the model number. I'm just looking over here in this corner where I'm just hoping to see a date on this somewhere. Yeah, maybe we'll look out and find one later. So that's this looks like the AC in here. So this is, although that's probably just a switch on the side of the AC jack there. Maybe not. Okay, so the trick will be the cassette mechanism, and I'll tell you what makes me not happy about this is that this mechanism and this dial cord run together. So there's the dial, the tuning dial here. It goes up around this little catch all the way along here, and the dial cord is integrated into the cassette mechanism, and then it runs back around there like that. It looks, so I wonder if it's possible to remove the front here, or the back, more accurately, from this whole mechanism and get access to the back of the tape deck that way. So is this a separate plastic molding from that? I think it must be. So here are microphones. So this piece here essentially forms the plastic frame at the back. So I think if we remove that screw, So what we want to do is find the screws that are holding this whole mechanism in place. That holds it to the board. I'm not happy about this at all. Let me have a good look at this and see if I can find something helpful. Okay, I've removed a bunch of screws. These on the left here were around this board, and it doesn't look like I had to remove them. I removed a screw here, here, one over here, one over here, I believe. And with that, and I've unplugged the power here, which I probably didn't need to. Unplug that back in. And I have unplugged this, which appears to unplug the tape motor and the tuner from what I assume is the power supply and amplifier section. Yeah, we've got the tone controls and there. Right. Volume and balance. The tone control is over on this side. Anyway, we'll see how that works out. So I'm actually going to put these screws back in on this side, and then I'm going to try and lift this up. It seems that I've got it loose, but I'm just worried about that cord and whether I have maybe another wire connected somewhere. These are the dust covers from the switches. We'll take those off, and we'll see. Okay, so I need to get over these switches here, and I have a big plug here, which I have to, see, you can't see any of this. Okay, so let's turn this up here. So I need to clear these switches, and I have this large plug here, which connects the tuner in to presumably the tape mechanism here. And I will need to get a small screwdriver in to release that. Let's see if I'm very careful with these. Anyway, I won't try to get it all on camera, but that's what's going on here, is an attempt to get that off. Then I'll have the tuner and the tape section separate from the amplifier and the power supply section. It's put together quite differently from the Sanyo that I've worked on before. So let me try to do that, and then I'll come back, and then we can see if we've got access to the other side of the tape mechanism. So I've got it opened up, and we've got a very nice quality tape mechanism in here. It's not immediately apparent what's wrong. This belt is loose, but it's not terrible. It is not gummy, so my initial feeling is not to change it. I think what I'm going to try to do is actually get some power to this so I can watch it move, and I'm going to have to do that through the transformer here. This is not quite as fully enclosed as some of the others, but I don't think there's anything on the board that's going to be live at mains. It'll be off the secondary here. So be a little cautious, but I think it should be okay. I'm not going to plug this in, but I am going to need to plug this power in for the tape deck. And this, I believe, is the erase head, right? Looks like it. And yeah, so I'll figure that out, and then I'll come back and we can see if we can figure out what's going on. If it's something Now this is probably the switch for write protect. Anyway, beautifully labeled board. If you needed to work on it, it wouldn't be too much trouble. But I don't think that the problem is electronic. I think it's electromechanical. So let me get some power on this. Let's see what it does, and then we'll come right back. All right, I've run it now briefly, and I do think the belt is the problem. I think when it's plugged in, you can see that the auto stop mechanism is engaging because the belt is getting too loose. It looks like that seems to be what drives the auto stop mechanism. So what I'm going to have to do, I think, is lift up this plate, which looks like 1, 2, 3 screws, and then we can get the belt, and I'll have to see if I've got one that's close before I do that. So that's the plan anyway at this point. So I do have a belt that I think will work. It's a little lighter than the initial one, which is like 1 millimeter, and this is probably 0.7, or this is 1.2 anyway. But that will probably work as at least to get it going, and then I can order one that's a closer fit. So what I'll do now is carefully remove these screws, keeping in mind that this was where things tend to get dicey. My concern is with this mechanism over here, but there doesn't appear to be any way to get this up without removing that. Hopefully the whole thing just lifts out. So those 2 screws were to machine screws, and it looks like it does. Look at that. Okay, so that lifts right out. It's got 2 tabs that go over here. Here's the belt tension thing, so when the belt comes out against this, it releases that and tries to stop the mechanism. Let's take that belt out. That's pretty tired. But we'll save that so we can measure the size and perhaps order a correct one. And then we can put this one in here. Assuming it is the right size, of course. We want, the other one is not really wrong in terms of size, it just doesn't have any stretch left. Oops. I think this one is going to work. The big problem with these belts sometimes is getting them too tight, because when they're too tight, you end up with noise from the motor being transmitted down the belt and causing noise on the cassette mechanism. The belt is, of course, supposed to... That looks pretty good, actually. The belt will straighten out as it runs, in fact. I think that's okay. All right, well, let's not muck around too much. I'll put this back in position. Yeah, if I can figure it out. There we go. So we got 2 machine screws over here. Actually, you know what? They're all the same. I thought they were machine screws. Okay. Oh, they are different. That's different. Okay, so that goes through there. And that one, it is a self-tapper, but it's into metal. And this one goes here. This one goes. Now it's possible the slightly too small belt could affect the playback speed, although it's still a square belt as opposed to a round one, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. Speed's easy to adjust on these, you just have to have some way of doing it accurately, which is hard. Okay, I'm going to plug in the power. I'll just reach down and grab that. Plug that in here. Okay, so we'll have a look. reverse, forward, that's stop. Okay, so we're still having issues. With the auto stop mechanism. Okay, well, I will continue to play with that and see if I can get it fixed. So it's going to be hard to see, but I think the actual issue is that we've got a buildup of goopy lubricant around everything in here. I'm going to be lazy and spray a little bit of contact cleaner around there and see if that cleans it up. And it doesn't seem to be helping just like that, but I'm going to get some cotton swabs and maybe I'll switch to alcohol and see where that takes me. Okay, I played around with it some more, but I could not get the auto stop mechanism to function better. Something is not putting it in the appropriate released position or not functioning position, and I'm not quite sure what that is, but I'm kind of a little bit out of patience with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to button this back up. I need to put the belt back on the tape counter here and get the rest of it back together. I won't show that all on camera. And then we'll see if we've actually got the tape deck working or not. 50-50, I think, at this point. It's a fairly simple tape deck electronically, but yeah, what's funny about this is that I look at it, there's no azimuth adjustment. I guess you just have to move those two screws. That's really bizarre. Maybe there's something hidden. No, there's no azimuth adjustment on it. Very, very weird. All right. Well, I will put it back together and then we'll see if it works. I haven't put all the screws in yet, but I think I've got all the wires in, and I do have the cassette mechanism in place. I've noticed some other issues with it as I've used it, like the fast forward, the roller is slipping. But, sorry, the roller's slipping, but we should be able to try play. So it plays. Try the other side of the 90-minute tape. So it works. So the question, I think what this would need is this needs to be cleaned out quite thoroughly and then probably re-greased. I don't know if I'm up for that task, but at the moment it's working. There's no auto stop, and we have some other issues. I do wonder if that slipping roller is not perhaps one of the causes of my problem here. But anyway, I'm kind of done with this for today. I should, in principle, have it working. So I'm going to get the screws back into it, and then we'll give it a proper try. Here we are with the red sharp all put back together. I will plug it in, and we'll first check and make sure that the radio works. We'll put it on stereo, put the balance in the center, we'll put it on radio.
And so I sang it out. Now it's mine.
Let's see.
25 degrees because we'll warm up a little more with that sunshine. Feeling like 28. I do just want to caution.
Okay, so that is fine. Let's see.
Created all kinds of consequences.
Low of
This information.
Yeah, so the dial still seems to be in reasonable order. All right, so we haven't heard anything. Let's try this tape. This tape came in a Walkman that I worked on and has a selection of, well, you'll see.
DMA, euphemistically known as
Oops. We need to be on tape. Not much on the right channel in here. All right, let's try the other side of the tape. Anyway, I have no idea what the quality of this original recording is. Let me go find a better tape, and we'll just try that briefly. So here's my rather worn copy of Fear of Music, which, although this came out in '79, I probably bought in the first half of the '80s sometime. This tape still sounds fine, but the mechanism's quite worn, which a lot of these Sire tape mechanisms that were sold in Canada are kind of junk. But, so we'll put on play and see how we're doing. It's a little hum. Could be because of the light here. Okay, it's sounding fine except the right channel is a bit off. Let's give a little bit of a wiggle around there. What I'd really like to do is align it. Tape speed sounds about right to me. But, well, see, that looks like, let me see, that looks like it's supposed to be an alignment screw. Let me find my flashlight here and have a look. But it isn't. There's nothing under there for you to, like right here, there's a cutout, right? And it looks like there ought to be an alignment screw there, but there isn't. So I don't know. There is, however, there's also hum out of this side. So the other possibility is just open it back up, wiggle all the plugs, and try again. I think I'm going to do that because the hum does suggest a questionable electrical connection. Let's just double check that we've got good stereo when we're in FM. So we'll put it on radio. There's the right channel. There's the left channel. Actually, the radio sounds very good on this. And then you can play with the wide stereo thing. So, I don't know what's going on with the whole tape thing, but I will have a look at it and wiggle the plugs and see if that makes any difference. If it is a tape alignment question, because it doesn't seem like it's possible to align this head, at least not easily, Yeah, I don't know what to do about that. If that's the case, then the urge to get involved in future repairs with this is fairly slim. All right, well, let me have a look at that, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I think I'm going to call it for that radio for now. I was able to adjust the azimuth. I was correct. This, let me just open it. This little slot here is the azimuth adjustment. It's possible to get it in a tape behind the front door, and then you can get in with a small Phillips screwdriver and adjust it. I think it was on, and I mucked around with it a little bit, but I'm not improving it on the right speaker. So that suggests that the issue, and I did open it up and try all the various plugs and unplugged things, and no difference. So that suggests that there might be something electronic. It could be the head's bad. I haven't really cleaned them properly. I will say, despite looking pristine on the outside, this has had a lot of use. This is a well-used radio. Someone kept very good care of it, but there's significant wear on the mechanism inside. So maybe that's the issue. However, apart from that, this all works fine. Oh, and of course the auto reverse doesn't work because the auto stop doesn't work because I disabled it. So auto stop, not true. But apart from that, it works perfectly. It's most likely to get used as a radio. Let me just make sure I tighten that screw all the way. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. The only other thing that I noticed that's broken on it is this little tab to hold the antenna in place, but not really necessary. It is a beautiful looking radio. It is mostly fully functional. It would be an okay candidate for adding Bluetooth to. You would have to figure out where in the wiring harness you wanted to intercept the signal. And there are probably a few places you can do it, since it does have a separate amplifier and tuner board. That interconnection is a likely place where you could put a switch in, and there's certainly room on the side plate here to put either an audio input on the side, or you could put maybe hide a Bluetooth board in here somewhere, but it's not entirely obvious. It's a fairly tight cabinet, so it's not entirely obvious where I'd put it. Not like the much newer Panasonic from the 90s, from 10 years newer than this, that I worked on, which had loads of space in it for hiding all sorts of stuff. However, it is a beautiful, relatively collectible Sharp radio. I'm happy to have it. I'm not going to use the cassette player probably at all, so it doesn't really matter to me in some sense, but I do want it working, and I will probably go into it at some point to try to get the auto stop mechanism working. But until then, I will put the parts away, hide them in the battery compartment or something. It's the next day, and I've had some chance to think about my partial repair of this radio and what I want to do going forward. So this is a little bag I put the parts I removed to disengage the auto stop mechanism, but I also found when I took the radio apart a broken pillar, and I thought, well, maybe I did that. But I've been thinking about it a bit, and I actually think someone's been in this radio. I think someone went in it to change the belts, which is why the belts were fine, and that they also managed to somehow damage this mechanism when they put it back together. Either they put it back together incorrectly, although I didn't see that, or perhaps they lost some or broke some small plastic part. And if you look at this carefully over here, it looks like something is broken off of it, a little piece of the plastic. So that's what I think happened there. I think they also managed to break one of these pillars or crack one of these pillars, and when I took it apart, it came apart. And if you remember, when I first opened this radio, the screws were loose, and I commented that they didn't seem very tight to me. So that's what I think happened to this before. I think this cassette deck could sound quite good if it was working properly, certainly equivalent to the Sanyos. Oh, I should say the other reason why I think this is has been worked on is that this is definitely an aftermarket antenna. This is way cheesy by the standards of the 80s. So there's that. So realistically, this isn't a radio I need to use. It is working, which is important to me at some level. This auto stop will never work, I suspect, now that I've noticed that there's a broken piece on it. And, you know, who knows, right, what could be wrong with it. The diagnosis stage of this would involve fully disassembling it so I could get to the other side of the boards. That's actually, now that I've been in it once, it's more modular than you think, and I think you could take everything out individually and do that. We know that the problem is going to be on the tape and radio board, which means you've got to get at that, which means messing with the cord, although, no, I'm sorry, I'm remembering that wrong. The radio is separate, it's on the amplifier board, so you don't have to fight with the radio. I probably will not touch the radio then. But again, my feeling is that's fairly low on the priority list. So you might see this radio later. The other reason to muck about with it, though, would be that maybe this is a good candidate for putting a Bluetooth device in. Now, the problem with it is it's pretty packed inside. There's not a lot of space, but I do have some other Bluetooth modules ordered. And if I was going to go down to the circuit boards to try to troubleshoot the tape deck problem, maybe that would be a good moment to consider putting in a Bluetooth device. And that might be quite easy with this radio for a number of reasons, which we could talk about if we get to that. So that might be a thought. Essentially, you'd mount the board behind the back cover somewhere, but as you can see behind the speakers, there's not a whole lot of clearance, but there probably would be enough clearance to do it. So I'm going to think about that. Again, keeping in mind, this is a good candidate because it's imperfect, right? And I'm really I was considering doing this to the Sanyo, but I've held off because it's so nice. And with this one, with the tape deck never going to work quite the way it was intended, I think I might be safe to play with this one. Okay, well, hope that makes sense. I mean, it is a beautiful radio as a shelf occupier. I'm extremely happy to have it. And I'd love to have a blue one because there's the red, there was the blue, and then there was a black. If I remember, it might have been a white too. But I'd love to have a blue one of these. The red one I think is pretty common. Anyhow, hope you enjoyed it. Have a good afternoon now.